Okay, and we're live on the Niche Agent. So today we got a great guest for you. It's Mark Gagner. Now, Mark, you're American, so you do say your name a little bit different. So why don't you take a quick second, introduce yourself, and tell us a bit about yourself and where you're from?
Hi, Ryan. Thanks, and I really appreciate being on your show. My name is Mark Gagner, and I am from Silicon Valley down here in Northern California. And like a lot of investors here in the Bay Area, where I'm from, my background is actually in high tech. And I still am co-owner of a electronics manufacturing company, which is basically a sales organization. But I have a lot of flexibility, so I predominantly spend the majority of my time actually doing real estate. And I got started buying in properties in the Central Valley of California back in 2011. We were buying REO properties, a partner and I. We had acquired 7 properties that we purchased, fixed, and then put tenants in them, and we're managing those properties. After about 13 months of that, I decided to shift gears, and I started a fix and flip business back in the Bay Area, where price points are quite a bit higher, and I've been doing that ever since to today. And I also do multifamily investing in various markets out of state for buy hold. So I have quite a variety, I guess, of strategies that I use. But I think today we're going to talk about my fix and flip business and how I work with real estate agents successfully in that business.
Exactly. So that's great. So for you, I want to go back to how you transitioned to that real estate. You mentioned you had a partner, and how did that first kind of purchase come together? How did that look like for you? Because obviously you have this other business. What made you want to get into real estate, and where did that all start from?
Yeah, it actually came from 2 places. Firstly, I had a friend who had told me about the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book about 7 years earlier, and I finally got around to reading it. And that particular book from Robert Kiyosaki really inspired me to look at my finances differently and look at other ways that I could eventually have passive income into my life. At the same time, I had a friend who was successfully doing real estate investing in this Central California town of Fresno. And so he, being a good friend, took me out to Fresno and showed me where he was buying properties, the types of properties he was buying, the price points he was paying for these properties, and what kind of rent he was getting. And when I added all the numbers up, there were great returns there. It just looked like a really solid opportunity. Double-digit returns. We were buying at the bottom of the market. And so I jumped in. I teamed up with a partner who had money, and I had some money. I had some money, and we started buying properties. And we acquired 7 single-family homes over the course of about 13 months that we purchased, fixed, and put tenants into.
Okay. So for you, when you made that move, you bought those properties, how much of your time was being spent actually on the managing, and how much time was being spent on the fixing, and how did that look over those first 13 months?
I was spending a lot of time on fixing those properties, and the good news is that I'm in sales, so I can actually talk on my phone and do repair work almost at the same time. So I was playing a little bit of hooky from my day job, but again, I'm co-owner of the business, so I had flexibility to do that. And I would spend 2 to 3 days at a time down in Fresno working on properties, and then come back, do my day job for several days, and I'd go back down. So I was spending a lot of time doing the fixing. One of the things I learned from that experience is that I really didn't want to do that. At least I didn't want to do it long term. So after 13 months, I was really prepared to learn a better way, which ultimately was hiring contractors to do the work, who would do a better job because they're professionals, number one, and number two, I just really didn't enjoy the work all that much. It was not something that I necessarily consider that I'm good at.
And you brought up a very valid point. And just kind of what we wanted to talk about today was you said you hired professionals to do the job because it wasn't what you wanted to do or what your best skill set is. And for you, one of the things that makes you unique is that you definitely bring the agents into the process. You're not out there just looking for your own deals. You have a whole process where the agent can win on the buy side, the agent can win on the sell side. And for you, as we talked before, is you try to make a win-win for everybody and have everybody make money and make it a good process. So can you talk a bit about what that looks like for you when you're purchasing a property and how you involve agents?
Yeah, I mean, the agents are absolutely critical. And actually, in my business, I have found that I have done more deals, found more deals, and resold more deals using agents than any other strategy that I've used. So typically when I reach out to an agent who has expressed an interest in working with me or has expressed an interest in learning how to work with investors, the first thing I'll tell them is that it is in my best interest to make sure that they make as much money working with me as possible, because that's the only way you incentivize and motivate agents to go out and think of you, put you at the top of their list, and potentially find opportunities. So my pitch is that I will have an agent who finds me an opportunity represent me as a buyer. I will fix a property, hopefully add a lot of value to the property, make it look amazing on the inside and out, and then there'll be the listing agent for me to sell it. And I will hope that they were either the seller agent on the original transaction or they find a buyer on the back-end transaction. At a minimum, the agents earn dual commissions when I buy the property first, and secondly, when they list it and they sell it for me. I have had agents triple in the commission before, which is a great deal, and
Yes.
I'm really happy to see that happen. I've never seen one yet get all four sides of the commission, but I am waiting for that day.
It will happen. So
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, out there who have maybe have worked with investors or who have had investors approach them, and there's varying degrees of investors. There's varying degrees of how people do their business. Even within my own show, I've had Mark Loeffler on and Matt Aitchison and their agents themselves, and they do investment properties. And there's so many different models, and I know a lot of agents have been burned by some investors. They may not be as trustworthy because they feel that they're just out to try to look out for them. But for you, it's like you said, it's very important to take care of the agents because they're the ones who are going to find you those deals. They're the ones who have their feet on the street and who know what's going on. So I like that you take care of us.
Well, absolutely, because if you don't have a long-term career in this business as far as I'm concerned. It's taking a long view approach, and really, quite frankly, the biggest challenge, at least in my market, but I think this is true in most markets, the biggest challenge of our business as an investor is actually finding a deal.
Right.
You know, it's the old adage that you make your money when you buy, not
Yep.
necessarily when you sell, although in the hot market, you know, that doesn't hurt, but you make your money when you buy, and so we're trying to buy properties at a relatively deep discount. And so, you know, there's certain challenges to that, and there's certain skill sets that are required to find deeply discounted properties. And so if you find agents that have that skill set, have the means, and have the desire to find you those opportunities, an intelligent fix and flipper will take very well care of them.
Yep. So now, as you know, and most people know, there are a lot of agents out there. I'm sure in your areas, especially in hot markets, there's even more agents than there probably should be. What is your criteria, and what makes a good agent for you, and what do you look for when you're trying to find an agent?
Well, I go out and I meet, you know, as many people as I can that have an interest in working with me.
Yep.
And I define what I'm looking for and what I will buy. And I try to have a systematic what means or way of following up and keeping in touch with these agents. And over time, you begin to learn and see which agents really can and will work with you. And they're the ones that bring opportunities to you on a, you know, somewhat consistent basis. But even beyond that, it's just really good business, I think, for me to reach out to as many people as I can, because it really is a numbers game,
Mm-hmm.
and let them know what I'm looking for, because it's possible that you have certain agents who, the majority of what they do is they're working with what I call retail clients.
Yep.
But every once in a while, they're going to run into a situation which is either a house that is in very poor condition that can't be sold to a retail buyer with a mortgage, or perhaps somebody that needs to sell very, very fast and it requires a cash buyer. And in those situations, I want to know that they remember me
Mm-hmm.
and will call me. And it's really about being, top of mind. So that's why it's so important to be systematic and keeping in touch with people. I have a newsletter that I put out to all kinds of people who can find me opportunities, whether they're other fix and flippers, wholesalers, agents, all kinds of people. And that's how I keep top of mind for people, because some agents are looking for me constantly. Other ones, I just want them to think about me when that little nugget out there appears, and they're like, oh yeah, Mark is a guy that can close on this deal quickly and easily, and I'll call him because he's a good resource for me.
That's great advice, because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're adding value to the other person's life, and a lot of times the investors are saying, add value to my life, add value to my life, and there's nothing in reciprocation to the other agents. And you're staying top of mind, you're communicating, you're following up, and not just waiting for agents to hope that they remember you.
Most agents I talk to actually have investors that they know. So, the first thing is it's good for any agent to have, investors in their toolbox, so that when they run into a scenario that I just described, they can pick up the phone and act quickly and decisively. Because really in this business, it's all about who moves fastest. I've gotten deals where another fix and flipper was not making a fast decision. I came in and I wrote an offer, and I got the deal because I was fast and decisive.
Yep.
So that's something that most agents, they have investors in their toolbox, so to speak. But what I want to be is the investor that is top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I go back to, it's important for us to establish a rapport and an ongoing relationship with real estate agents, such that, when they see something, they may have 5, 10 investors that they talk to, but they're going to think of me first.
Yep. And I'm sure on the vice versa, you have those agents that you think of that are your top agents as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But again, it kind of comes down to who brings you a deal. I've had agents that brought me one deal, and I've stayed in touch with them for 2 years. I've never seen another deal out of them. But that doesn't mean that they won't find one tomorrow.
Exactly.
But they just don't regularly, I guess, have those opportunities present themselves.
Yep. Now, on the show in the past, I've talked to different people, and when they're finding their niche and they're trying to figure out who they want to go after and figure out a target audience, they've come up with kind of an avatar. So it's this ideal client or ideal situation or ideal scenario where it's like, this is what I'm looking for. Do you have that with investment properties, where you say, if you're telling agents like, hey guys, this is what I'm looking for, this type of property, this price range, in this location, or are you more open to anything? And do you have a niche within your investments?
So, firstly, there's a geographical limitation, because even though I'm hiring contractors to do the work, I want to be able to be within an hour drive to manage the project and oversee the contractor, even if it's just once or twice a week. So it needs to be within a certain geographic range. At least personally for me, that's what I need. But otherwise, I'm really just looking at numbers. I'm looking at what I can buy the property at, what it's going to cost me to fix it up, and what I can resell it for. And I don't care if it's a condo, a townhouse, a single-family home, a duplex. If those numbers work, and we have a certain basic formula that we use, at least kind of a back-of-the-napkin formula, if those numbers work, then I'll go look at it. So I'm not going to say I'm only going to buy 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, for example. I'm happy to do 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I'll do a 1-bedroom, 1-bath if the comps support it. And, in this kind of market where it's a hot market, and I think that's true in many places. I'm not sure if that's true everywhere. You can do that, but it really comes down to the numbers and what the comps dictate you can resell the property for.
Okay. So now for you, obviously, it's important to add value to the other agents' lives and to their businesses. What do you bring to the table other than just being able to buy a property quickly?
Well, I make their lives really easy. I mean, one of my principles in business is, be easy to work with and do what you say you're going to do. And, there's a lot of people in this business that I've found over the course of time that don't necessarily operate in that fashion. So if you're an agent, for example, and you find a dumpy house, and you're trying to figure out if there's any way you can monetize that, I'll tell you that I'll make your job really easy because I'll do it. I'll write a cash offer, and I'll buy it and go through the process, and I've gone through the process dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times. So I make it quick, I make it efficient, I make it easy. The agent's just sitting there, I guess, passing paperwork back and forth for the most part, because we're buying not on emotion, but we're buying strictly to get that property in contract, close it, and then from there, the agent is waiting until we fix it, and then it becomes a normal listing. But again, we're experienced in the process, so we, at least from our side of it, we take all the emotions out of it,
yep,
and hopefully do a good job for the agent. So I guess what we're trying to do is we're trying to make their job really easy and give them as many sides of the commission as possible, without a lot of the other emotional stuff that might go back and forth in a normal retail transaction.
Yeah, and that's a great point because there is the financial currency they're being trading in, which is important, but it's also, like you said, making it easier that the emotional energy and the amount of work and energy is just as valuable as the actual commission itself. And
yeah,
in our business, we have a lot of preferred vendors, so mortgage brokers, home inspectors, and that kind of stuff. And there's ones we connect with and want to work with because they make our jobs easier, and there's ones that make it a living hell. So we want to work with the ones who make our job easier, and it makes even if we got paid the exact same amount, just having that transaction go smoothly and know that it's going to be taken care of makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Well, one thing, Ryan, that we actually haven't talked about, I don't think, is that I'm actually a licensed broker myself here in California. And but the funny thing is I've actually never listed one of my properties. I'd rather give it to an agent. I'm not in the business to do listings, and so it's a little bit funny because sometimes I'll talk to an agent, and when they hear that I'm a broker, they get, even though I'm telling them that I will have them represent me on both sides and all that, some will still be a little bit skeptical until they work with me, and they'll see that I have no interest in doing that on my own. I have my license for, the education of it, for understanding the process, for having a lockbox key, and for having full access to the MLS. I mean, that's, primarily why I have that license. And otherwise, I'm happy to have the other people buy and sell for me. But I do understand the process and the documents and all that.
Which helps, and that's, again, why you're able to make it a lot easier for the other agent because you know the process, you understand it, you're not guessing at it, and there's no confusion between you and the agent. You know what the expectations are.
Exactly.
And it's great that you mentioned about having the license because the listeners are familiar with Dave Ramsey. He has his license as well, and he talks about it on his radio show, and he said, I have my license, and I still hire a real estate agent, and I'm licensed and capable of doing it. He's a smart guy. He knows his money. But he said, but I hire the professional to do it because it's not my job. It's not what I'm best at. I'm best at X, Y, and Z, and you're doing the same thing. You know what you're good at, and you're hiring the professional to do what they're good at.
That's exactly right.
So if there's any for sale by owners listening as well, I hope they can take that into account because sometimes they don't understand that. So,
yeah, of course.
So for you, I want to walk through and go back to how the actual deal is found. So as an agent, if say I'm the agent bringing you a deal, am I finding the seller and it's my listing and I'm coming to you and you're buying it from me? Am I finding already listed properties and bringing it to you and selling it? Or how does that whole transaction work then?
Yeah, well, it's a case-by-case basis. So despite conventional wisdom, actually, I would say probably more deals recently than not have actually come right off the MLS.
Okay.
But when you're finding deals on the MLS, it's really, again, this is a skill set that may take some time for some agents to develop. It's really recognizing where there's an opportunity. So, for example, I bought houses with foundation issues.
Mm-hmm.
Foundation issues scare retail buyers, right? But I have really good contractors that know how to deal with foundation issues and know how to deal with them economically, where others might be scared. I bought houses that had red tag issues from the city because there was some problem like a retaining wall that was a problem. And so, again, that was a situation where the city, where a retail buyer would perhaps not be comfortable buying such a house, or a fire in a house. So there's different scenarios that come about with certain homes that end up on the MLS that are either difficult to sell,
Mm-hmm.
or they understand that there's issues and they're willing to sell quickly to somebody that is not afraid to take on that particular home. I'm in contract right now trying to close tomorrow on a house that has a horrible layout.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, they were not going to sell that for top dollar. But as an investor, I can come in because my intention is to relay out the house such that it has a normal flow to it. So really it comes down to the agent being able to recognize those opportunities where properties can be bought at a discount and going in and negotiating accordingly, depending on what the situation is with the house.
Okay. So for you, do you find when you go to sell it that there's any stigma or kickback from the agent when they go to resell it as a retail house? Are they finding because they knew there maybe was damage or there was problems in it before? Are they running into any issues because it's been
No, because we're getting permits. We're doing engineering, and we're getting permits when we do things like foundation work or when we're relaying out a house. So as long as it's permitted and it's been done correctly with a competent, quality, licensed contractor, people don't. It really doesn't even become any type of issue at all.
Okay. So part of the whole reason I want to have you on here is talking about how agents can start adding these kind of tools to their arsenal, into their toolbox of having investors like yourself work with them. So what would be an effective strategy for, say, an agent who's maybe dabbling in wanting to work with investors or has some investors? How would you say it's a good approach for them to get that process started or build on that?
Yeah, so every city has what I call a RIA, which is a Real Estate Investing Association. So if you just Google your city name and REI or REIA, typically you can find Real Estate Investor Association, and that's really the simplest and quickest way to find real estate investors that are looking for deals, that are cash investors that can close quickly and easily and will be very supportive of agents generally, at least the intelligent ones, because if they can find agents that can find them deals, again, that is probably the largest challenge in this business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the easiest, quickest way. There's all kinds of other ways to do it. You can look in Craigslist. There's Craigslist ads for people looking to buy houses for cash. You can call numbers off the side of the road. We buy houses for cash signs. There's it's only limited to your imagination how you can find real estate investors. But again, I would say the RIAs are probably the quickest, easiest, most practical way to identify people like myself.
Okay. And once that relationship started, how do you foster that and grow that, and how do you make that relationship thrive and make it valuable for each other?
Well, I think firstly you want to have an understanding of what the real estate investor is looking for. What's their criteria? What's their buy criteria? And once you understand that, it really depends on how active and how focused and committed the agent wants to be specifically to the investor. So, for example, I said, some agents that I've worked with, they just know me, and they know that if and when they come across an opportunity, that is a burned-out house, a horrible layout, a foundation issue, I want to be at top of mind for them to call me.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's other agents that specifically, day in and day out, they're specifically looking for opportunities for investors. And these are people that are, looking at houses that have been on the have a high days on market. These are houses that maybe have not sold and been expired listings. Agents that are looking for opportunities can put in the agent descriptions things like, or actually not even agent descriptions, but the general descriptions of the properties on the MLS. They can search by fixer-upper, handyman special, cash investor. There's all kinds of different terms that they can search by to pull up properties that might be good opportunities for an investor. And so it then is a matter of matching the investor to those types of properties. So again, some agents are more active in doing this on a day-to-day basis, almost as a niche, and others just want it in their toolbox that if and when someday they come across an opportunity, they know who to call, who can be decisive and act quickly.
And it's good to have, again, we mentioned those tools in your toolbox. It's good to have that person, because if you do, you may not be actively doing it consistently on a regular basis, but you may run across it. You may see a for sale by owner. You may see a property that or a neighbor, you hear of something, and it's just good to have that connection, because you can make some money. It helps you make some money, and it makes everybody happy.
Yeah. One opportunity I've been seeing a lot of lately, several of my deals have been probate properties. And typically, again, in the agent notes or in the general notes on the MLS, it'll say if it's a probate property, because the contract is a little bit different that needs to be used. So those are always a good one. Typically, you have people that are just looking to get out of the property. They don't have a lot of emotional attachment, and they're just oftentimes a good opportunity for a cash investor.
And I think just listening to how you work as an agent, you want to find someone who's going to want everyone to win. For you said you want them to make as much money because you want them to continue to look for you. If you find an investor it's completely one-sided, it's not going to want to make you work with them again, and not going to want to make you bring them deals and go out there, because there's a lot of investors out there who are burning bridges with a lot of agents because they don't make it beneficial for everybody.
Right. No, I mean, that's true. And so you want to look for the people that are in the business for the long term, that have a successful track record of working with agents. And quite frankly, it's a small world out there. So if you don't do something right, a lot of people are going to hear about it.
Yeah. Okay, so for you, what's the future of your business look like? I mean, you're obviously growing, but
Ryan, let me throw one other thing out there that I just thought of before we move on. So, the MLS is just one way to find properties.
Yep.
Really, another way that I've worked with agents and they've been successful with this is agents that have relationships with wholesalers. So there's ways to find wholesalers. Again, going to your RIA meeting and meeting wholesalers, going some of the people that hang these bandit signs, we buy houses for cash, we buy ugly houses, those are oftentimes wholesalers. Again, Craigslist. There's all these resources that you can go to find these wholesalers. Now what will happen is if you're an agent, the wholesaler may have a house in contract that it's already in contract, right? So there's not an opportunity right there for a listing agreement or a listing commission or even a buying commission. But I've had agents bring those deals to me, and I've paid them separately on top of the assignment fee, a bonus, or just call it a buyer commission separately for the purchase of those properties if the numbers work. And then if they do that, even if that number isn't as big as what it would have been if it was a normal 6% commission deal, think of it this way: I'm going to fix that house up. I'm going to make it really pretty, hopefully, and they'll get the listing commission for it too. So it pays to work with wholesalers too, not just projects off the MLS.
Yep. If you're working with an investor who will in turn give you the listing on the other end.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they won't, then
Find another one.
I go find other investors.
Exactly.
Sure.
Okay, so what's the future of your business look like, and where are you going with things, and what do you want to see in the next couple of years?
So I would like to continue to expand the volume of the business that I do. Right now I have 3 to 4 projects typically going on at any given time. So I'd like to increase that and hire project managers, to help me manage those projects ongoing. I also am doing multifamily investing because one of my strategies is to take the active income that I'm earning from my fix and flip business and move those resources into buy hold properties or trying to build up long-term wealth and passive income. And that's ultimately what I want to do. I guess 20 years from now, I'm not sure if I want to be fixing and flipping, but I sure would like to have a good passive income stream. So that's really, at least personally, my long-term goal, to keep moving in that direction.
Awesome. So if you were to give agents one piece of advice, if they're thinking about working with an investor, what would you give them as one last final piece of advice?
This is general advice that I give to, kind of everybody in the real estate world that I work with, and you got to be consistent with what you do. So, whatever you're trying to do, be consistent with it, have a system so that you're constantly taking actions that are going to result in what you're trying to accomplish, your success. So, like for me personally, it's always maintaining and trying to strengthen those relationships that I have. So I think on the flip side of it, agents who are consistently staying in touch with real estate investors, trying to understand where the markets are changing, maybe how their strategies are changing.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like I in the future may also be looking to do development, and so we're looking for small properties that are run down on larger lots that we can tear down and build a brand new house on.
Yep.
And that's a little bit different model than just a cosmetic fix and flip. So really staying in touch, being consistent with how you keep in touch with the real estate investors, as well as be consistent with your strategy and how you're finding properties. If you're looking for probates, make sure that perhaps once a week, at the end of the week, you're researching the MLS for probate properties or fixer-uppers or handyman specials or whatever you're doing. You just want to be consistent with whatever you're trying to accomplish, and over time, you'll find these opportunities. Anybody new in this business, they'll tell you there's no deals out there. It's impossible to find a discounted property. But if you're consistent with your marketing and your approach, you will find deals. And I think I don't, as we've discussed, I don't operate as an agent, but I'm pretty sure that it works the same way on their side of the fence as on ours.
Yeah, exactly. I always say consistency and persistence is the key.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, Mark, well, we appreciate you being on. So what's the best way for our listeners to check out what you're doing? If there's any agents that want to connect with you, or if there's any other investors that want to connect with you or see what you're up to, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So I have a website. It's my company name, Bridge Equity Group. So it's www.bridgeequitygroup.com. My email address is my first initial last name, so it's mgagner@bridgeequitygroup.com. Those are probably the best ways to reach me, and I pride myself in trying to be very responsive, so I'd love to talk or help out any of your listeners that have any questions.
Awesome. We will put that in the show notes, and we'll give a shout out to Mark from CM2 Media, who helped you build your website, who's also helped me build my website, which is kind of how we connected. So thanks to Mark for the introduction. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark, we appreciate you being on, and thank you for such your advice and information, because it's great to hear the other side of it and how we can grow our businesses from looking at it from just a different angle. So we appreciate your insights, and thanks for being on the show.
Had a really great time. Thank you.
Thanks. It was a good.